College was supposed to be a time of new beginnings and adventures, but for me, it turned into a living nightmare. I'm about to share the haunting tale of how I became the target of a stalker, the janitor at my school. I'd see him around campus, just another face in the crowd. But as the days passed, I noticed he was always there, lurking in the shadows with his eyes fixated on me. It made me a little uncomfortable, but I brushed it off, hoping it was just my imagination. But soon, the signs were undeniable. He'd appear out of nowhere when I was studying in the library, or when I was grabbing a coffee at the campus cafe. It was as if he had a radar locked onto me, tracking my every move. I told some of my friends about what was happening, but they brushed it off, thinking I was overreacting. Maybe he's just being friendly, they'd say, not understanding the fear that would take over my body whenever I caught sight of him. A few weeks into the semester, the situation escalated. He started leaving notes on my desk in the classroom. The notes were a mix of compliments and creepy observations about my appearance. I felt violated, like my personal space had been invaded. The notes turned into messages on social media, even though I never shared my accounts with him. I didn't even know how this creep knew my name. That's when I knew that something was terribly wrong. Fear began to consume my life. I constantly looked over my shoulder, my heart pounding with every creak and shuffle. I literally felt imprisoned by fear and paranoia, and I knew I had to take action, so I reported the stalking to campus security and the school administration. But they shrugged it off, saying there wasn't enough evidence to take any action. I felt betrayed, like no one cared about my safety. I couldn't rely on the school to protect me, so I took matters into my own hands. I installed surveillance cameras in my dorm room and started documenting every interaction with him. I needed solid proof to make them see the truth. But the stalking only intensified. He'd leave gifts outside my door, flowers, teddy bears, even a necklace. Each gift felt like a taunt, a reminder that he was always watching. One night, while I was walking home from a late study session, I felt a chilling presence behind me. I started walking faster. I tried not to turn around and make contact with whoever was behind me. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was following me. I finally decided to glance back, and there he was, lurking in the shadows. We made eye contact, and I instantly felt unsafe. I started running toward my dorm, hoping that he wouldn't run after me. When I finally made it back to my dorm, I slammed the door shut and barricaded it with a chair. Tears streamed down my face as I dialed 911. My voice was trembling so badly while I was speaking to the operator. The operator promised me that help was on the way, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still out there, lurking, waiting for his next chance. The police arrived, and I explained what happened to them from that night and the countless instances of stalking and harassment leading up to that night. They assured me they'd investigate and increase patrols around campus. But as the days passed, I couldn't shake the fear that he was still out there, just beyond my reach. I reached out to a counselor at school, desperate for support. She helped me create a safety plan, changing my daily routines, walking with friends whenever possible, and keeping my dorm secure at all times. But despite the precautions, the stalking continued. It was like a twisted game of cat and mouse, and I was the helpless prey. Finally, after weeks of terror, the breakthrough I'd been hoping for came. The surveillance footage caught him in the act, lurking outside my dorm room. The evidence was finally enough to make the school take action. The campus security and the police caught the janitor and arrested him. I was so freaking happy and relieved knowing he was finally behind bars, unable to stalk me anymore. He was fired and I was able to get a restraining order against him. When the semester ended, I moved into an apartment off campus because I just didn't feel safe living on campus anymore.
One night while in college, My friends and I decided to go to an off-campus party, turn my college experience into a living nightmare. My experience that night really made me realize that college partying is not all that people hype it up to be. I was excited to start my freshman year and eager to meet my new roommate, Matt. He seemed like a cool dude, always cracking jokes and ready to hit up any party in town. We hit it off right away, and I felt lucky to have him as my roommate. One Friday night, everyone on campus was talking about a wild house party that was happening off campus. Matt and I decided to head to an off-campus house, eager to let loose after a week of studying and classes. The party was packed, and the energy was wild. As the night wore on, I noticed Matt getting friendly with some people I didn't recognize. But hey, it was a party, and everyone was just having a good time, or at least that's what I thought. In the blink of an eye, everything changed. A sudden commotion erupted in the living room, and I rushed to see what was happening. That's when I saw it, a gun in someone's hand, shots fired into the crowd. Panic consumed me as I searched for Matt in the chaos. But he was nowhere to be found. I was terrified to say the least. I rushed outside, desperate to find Matt. My heart sank as I saw him lying on the ground, surrounded by a pool of blood. In that moment, my world shattered into a million pieces. The nightmarish scene blurred into a blur of flashing lights and sirens. When the police got there, the party was quickly shut down. But the damage had been done, and my dear friend Matt was gone forever. In the days that followed, I felt a lot of grief and guilt even though I didn't know exactly why. I guess I just felt that I should have done something to protect him and to prevent this tragedy from happening. The campus community mourned the loss of Matt, and everyone who knew how close we were did their best to be there for me, but no amount of comfort could fill the void left by his absence. The reality of it all was too much to bear. My roommate, my friend, was gone, and I couldn't help but feel that I had let him down somehow. After the police conducted their investigation, we learned that the shooter had been involved in a dispute with someone at the party. Matt was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, an innocent victim of a senseless act of violence.
This story happened during my senior year of university and while I was a resident advisor. For those of you who don't know what an RA is short for resident assistant, and it's basically a college student who is employed by the university to live in the residence halls or dorms. As the RA in my dorms, I was also a peer advisor and leader for other students living in the same residential area. I was also responsible for building a sense of community within the residence hall, promoting a positive and inclusive living environment, and assisting residents with any issues or concerns they may have. As you can imagine, I had a lot of responsibilities resting on my shoulders. As an RA, I saw my fair share of madness in the dorms and felt pretty confident that after graduation, I would be well equipped to deal with whatever the world threw at me. However, nothing I had previously experienced could prepare me for this night. It was a typical Friday evening in the residence hall. The hall smelled like pizza and a few of the residents were playing music. But just as I settled in for a quiet evening, I heard frantic footsteps echoing down the hall. Without a second thought, I rushed towards the source of the commotion. In one of the rooms, I found a group of students surrounding a young woman lying unconscious on the floor. Panic and fear painted their faces. My heart raced as I assessed the situation. "Call 911, I shouted to one of the students, who quickly dialed for help. My mind was racing, trying to remember my training and what to do in a situation like this. I knelt beside the unconscious girl, trying to assess her condition. Her breathing was shallow, and her skin was cold to the touch. It was obvious that she had overdosed on something. Finally, the paramedics burst into the room, and I stepped back to let them take over. They worked quickly trying to stabilize the girl. As they rushed her out on a stretcher, I wondered, had there been signs I had missed? Could I have done more to prevent this? The rest of the night passed in a blur of emotions. The residents were scared and shaken, and I did my best to provide comfort and support. The next day, the news spread like wildfire across campus. The girl, her name was Jessica, had survived the overdose but was in critical condition. The reality of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks. I never really saw Jessica after that night, and the administration found out how the drugs got on campus and expelled the dealer who lived in another dorm. I graduated not too long after the incident, but I hope everything turned out fine for everyone involved. Thank you for listening and stay spooked.